Hi, this is Stacy with Lily Bean Crafts by Stacy. Welcome back, and if it's your first time, thanks for stopping by. I wanted to make a custom mix for this Peekaboo, so I went and looked at all of my Chase Rae. So I mixed together Farmhouse, Hot Cocoa, Farmer's Market, and Hayride and made this custom blend of all these chunky to fine mixes that made the most beautiful color to put for the bottom or the Peekaboo for this tumbler. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. And I'm actually going to save this to do a s'mores tumbler at some point in time this winter. So for today's tutorial, I'm going to be using a morning mug that I got from the Tipsy Magnolia, and I went ahead and cleaned and prepped it, and I spray painted it a chocolate brown, let that dry, and now I am going in with that custom mix. I'm just going ahead and applying it with the epoxy method. I put about 2 mLs of epoxy on here, and I like to do epoxy when I'm working with chunky mixes because it's just easier to get it to lay down flat. So I'm also taking my parchment paper, laying that down, getting any creases. I did not put the chunky mix onto the handle because this is going to be a Peekaboo and I'm going to be covering that up with just spray paint. I put that off to the side for 4 hours, and now I'm going in with my glitter glue and letting this dry for another 4 hours so that we can get our first coat of epoxy on. I am going in with 15 mLs of my Flynn Sisters Facet Epoxy here. I'm going to go ahead and let this spin for about 2.5 hours and then go in with another 10 mLs of my Facet Epoxy, let that dry for 4 hours, and then we will start working on the Peekaboo. So I did have these fall leaves already, so I'll find them and I'll get them linked. So I'm just using some of this vinyl that I like to use for whenever I'm doing any kind of a Peekaboo. So I'm just going ahead and cut that out to sizes that I thought would fit. There is also a really pretty outline that goes with these flowers that I'm going to be using later on. So once I get this all laid out, I'm going to go ahead and take this outside and get it spray painted. So for the spray paint, I picked up some Rust-Oleum's Heirloom White. I really wanted it to have a nice creamy look to it. It is a satin paint, but I was fine with that. I went ahead and I put 2 coats on there. I let them dry completely. And now I'm going in and peeling off all of this. If you let the spray paint dry all the way, it is generally pretty easy to remove this stencil vinyl. And now that I'm done with that, I'm going in with another 10 mLs of my Facet Epoxy. I will go ahead and let this spin for 4 hours, and then we'll start getting those outlines on. As I was letting this spin, I decided that it just needed a little bit more to it, so I took that custom blend of glitters that I made and I went ahead and just started applying it, no rhyme or reason, kind of all over the little tumbler here, and I just liked that it just gave a little bit more of an effect to it. It just really needed it. It was a little bit flat without it. So once I have this on the way that I like it, I am going to take some of my tweezers and I'm just going to kind of move around and shift. I never like it when chunky glitters are like piled on top of each other. So I'm just going to move it around and kind of break up any chunkier pieces that are on there. And then once that's done, I will go ahead, let that spin for another 2.5 hours. And then I'm going to put another coat of epoxy on here and let that dry completely and then start working with the stencils. This stencil vinyl that I'm using, I get from Amazon, and I really like it. It weeds really nicely, and with this particular design, there's a lot of really small pieces. And because this kind of vinyl has a tendency to bubble up if you're not really careful with it, I try to be really, really careful when I'm weeding out all of this. So it took a little bit of time, but not too terrible compared to some of the other gold vinyls that I've tried out there. I'll link that in the description for you. And then I'm just going to go ahead and apply these to the couple of different leaves here. Some of them, the leaves, because the stems are really long, aren't really going to work in the placement of it. So there's a couple of them that I trim out, and then there's a couple of them that I just move because I want to get more of the look of the stem on the tumbler. And after I get these all applied, I will go ahead and get this epoxied. After I got all of these applied, I did put another coat of epoxy on here, and I did not record that. So I put a coat of epoxy on, I let it dry for 4 hours, and then I'm going to go ahead and add an SVG. I wanted to find something that just said hello fall, and I actually found this on my Cricut. So I decided to make an outline with it. So I took the original design, I added an outline at 0.05, and then I added a 0.05 outline to the second outline that I did. And then once that's done, I'm going ahead and I'm just getting it all weeded out here. I did play with the colors to see what would work the best. I decided to go with black on the top for the main, and then I went with the gold, and then I'm going to go with white underneath. And I'm just going to show you how I like to apply this onto the transfer tape, starting with the top one. And then I like to take my mat and applying the next one to it. It just makes it easier for me to go ahead and get it on there the way that I want it to be. And then once I get this peeled off, I will go ahead and then take the white and do the same thing again so that it's all put together. And then it's just really easy to go ahead and apply it to the tumbler. Can take the time to measure it out and make sure that you're getting it exactly in the right placement. I just kind of like to look at it and just hope for the best, which is what I did here, and it did work out. So now that I have that on here, I'm going to go in with my final coats of epoxy. I'm applying 10 mLs of my fast set epoxy here. I will let this spin for 4 hours, sand it down, and then go in with another 10 mLs of my Flynn Sisters fast set, or my Flynn Sisters Artist Cure resin, so that it gets that amazing shine. And I will let this one spin for 8 to 10 hours until it's completely done. And then we're going to start doing the glitter butt, and we're going to do it a little bit different this time. Instead of taking it outside and spray painting it, I decided to use one of my pop of colors, and I'm going in with berry brown, and I'm just going to go ahead and just get this on here and get it coated really good. I actually wound up just doing one coat on it. It was a little bit thick, so it did take a little bit of time for it to dry, but once it was dry, then we can just start going in with the glitter mixture. This is how I normally do a glitter butt, so it's starting off the way that I always do them. So I'm getting a little bit of my UV resin, which I do have linked in my description, and then that glitter mix again. I'm going to get it into the outer rim completely, but I want to keep it pretty shallow. I don't want to fill it all the way to the top. So I'm just putting a little bit in here, and then I'll put it under my UV lamp for 2 minutes. Let that dry, and then I will go ahead and mix up another set of the UV resin and the glitter to put into the center and do the exact same thing. Only when I do it in the center, I make sure to pop the bubbles. And from Mitzi's Doodles, I have gone and had a little tag made for the glitter butt with Lily Bean Crafts by Stacy on it. So I'm going ahead here and getting the little paper backing that protects it peeled off. This is always a pain in the you-know-what for me. But now that I got it off, I'm going to take a little bit of UV resin, put it directly in the center in the direction that I want it to face, and I'm going to put this under the lamp for a minute and just let that dry. So now I'm going to mix a little bit of my Flynn Sisters Fast Set Epoxy. I'm just putting a dab down, and then I put a dab down of the A and I put a dab down of the B, and I'm just mixing it together. This is how I like to apply my rhinestones to things. I like this better than the liquid glue that you can get. It just seems to last a little bit longer, and it's just a little bit easier to work with, in my opinion. If you don't want to do that, you could definitely use the liquid glue that they normally recommend for rhinestones. So the rhinestones that I'm using today are from Flynn Sisters, and it is the SETH Custom Mix. I'm not applying all of the colors. It does have a purple to it, and the purple is something that just didn't mix with it, but all of the other colors in this worked really well with the colors in this custom glitter mix that I have. So I'm just going to show you how I just start to apply it. Doing this on the butt is really, really easy. Like I said, especially when you do the epoxy method, you just spread it on a large area. You have a lot of time for it to get it applied before it starts to dry. You just want to start moving it around and just placing it, trying not to get too much of the same colors right stacked next to each other. And then I'm just going to do this throughout the entire glitter butt. It probably took me about 15 minutes to do the entire thing. It was pretty quick. And once that's done, then you're going to want to let it sit for a couple of hours because, you know, it takes a long time for the epoxy to dry, but still totally worth the process of it. And then once that was done, I did put a little bead of the UV resin around the outer ring just to secure all that in and just make it look really nice. And then this tumbler will be done. And here is the finished product. I really like how all the colors came together. Even the rhinestones, it just really brought everything together. It just made it just a little fancy on the bottom because, you know, it's always nice to be a little fancy when you're drinking your coffee. And if you like this tutorial, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.